So, El Salvador President Bukele, Bukele says he won't be releasing a Maryland man back to the US, okay? If I'm mispronouncing his name, it's because I do not respect him, okay? I very much do not respect him. There's nothing I have against Latino people or El Salvadorians. I just don't respect this man, okay? It's just like how people mispronounce Kamala's name. Kamala, okay? Camila, all right? Or Hillary, or, I don't know, or Michael Obama, all right? You know, I don't respect this guy, okay? Um, and something has happened. This is the end, okay? Because Trump, the Trump administration has rejected the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling that says you have to make a concerted effort to bring back Kilmar, okay? Kilmar Abrigo, who was kidnapped by ICE, sent on an airplane to a death camp, all right? A death prison. Sorry, death camp is maybe too extreme, but who knows, okay? To a death prison. Now, there are some rumors and conspiracies about Kilmar not being alive anymore, and that's why they can't return him. Otherwise, they would have returned him. But regardless, we have an order from the Supreme Court, a court order, to make a concerted effort to bring back this innocent Maryland man, okay, who was up to date with his immigration papers. He is not part of MS-13. He has spent his life running away from gangs. And he is a father who is in charge of his disabled kids, 3 kids. And the Trump administration said, Giga Chad, no. So let's take a look at this, okay? Let's take a look at this article. Now, the reason why this is so massive is because if the U.S. government is not beholden to a court orders, orders or whatever, right? Who is it beholden to at this point? There's nothing preventing Trump from doing anything. If even the Supreme Court rules something unanimously, and Trump disobeys it, where are we at now? What's to stop? What is to stop the Trump administration from doing anything? Okay. Well, nothing. This is it. This is it. Why aren't they releasing him again? Is he a prisoner? So he is a U.S. permanent resident, I believe, who has been kidnapped by ICE, sent to El Salvador. He is a prisoner under El Salvador President Bukele and Bukelele, all right? And the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 to get him back to the U.S. And they both said no. Both the Trump administration and the El Salvadorian president said no. Wait, is he alive? See, that's the question I'm curious about. I have no idea. We don't have any idea. We don't know if he's alive or not. Okay, who knows? Maybe he's dead. Okay. Okay, let's take a look. All right. So President Donald Trump's top advisors and Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, said Monday that they have no basis for the small Central American nation to return a Maryland man who was wrongly deported there last month. I can't believe it's only been a month. Bukele called the idea preposterous, even though the U.S. Supreme Court has called on the administration to facilitate Kilmar Abrigo Garcia's return. Now, for the record, okay, no foreign ruler or president or king is beholden to the American courts, okay? That's totally fair. But the president is. The president is, in fact, beholden to the Supreme Court because that's all domestic, all right? President Trump should at least make an effort, like calling Bukele and saying, hey, can we have this guy back at the very least? That's the least he can do. Or return his corpse, all right? Or return his corpse. That's the least he can do. but we can't even have that, right? Trump administration officials emphasized that Abrego Garcia, who was sent to a notorious gang prison in El Salvador, was a citizen of that country and that the U.S. has no say in his future. And Bukele, who has been a vital partner for the Trump administration in its deportation efforts, said, of course, he would not release him back to U.S. soil. Now, I want to remind everybody, okay, that Trump, it's not like we're even gaining anything from the slave labor of everybody who's been deported to El Salvador. Just a reminder that they are working in a work labor camp probably right now because of the no idleness law passed in El Salvador, which like makes prisoners go to work, all right, forcefully. You don't have a choice. They're slaves. We're not even gaining anything. No economic benefit from this slave labor either. We paid them $6 million to house, so-called house, the people that was sent there. Okay, $6 million. All right. You know, I would call this the North American slave trade. But you know, a trade implies that somebody is benefiting from this monetarily, and like both sides are kind of benefiting from it, right? But you know, we're not even benefiting from it. So it's like, well, we can't even argue on the economics of the matter, all right? The question is preposterous. How do I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? Bukele, seated alongside Trump, told reporters in the Oval Office Monday, I don't have the power to return him to the United States. That is so incorrect and so wrong. Because if they have the power to lift off airplanes and refuse court orders to turn the airplanes around, they definitely have the power to send him back. All right. Here is the meeting. Here is Trump. Here is Bukele. Okay. He's looking sharp. Okay. He's one handsome dictator. All right. Should El Salvador want to return Abrego Garcia? Oh, by the way, me calling him a dictator, that's not me. Okay. Believe it or not, Nayib Bukele calls himself a dictator. He calls himself, I think, the world's coolest dictator. I think that's what he called himself. I'm not joking. All right. Should El Salvador want to return Abrego Garcia, the U.S. would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane, Attorney General Pam Bondi said. Which, I mean, El Salvador basically says no. All right. But first and foremost, he was illegally in our country, and he had been illegally in our country, she said. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. Oh, and we apparently have a segment here. Let's take a look at this.
El Salvador's president says he will not be returning a Maryland man wrongly deported to the Central American nation last month. The Trump administration says Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a violent criminal and a citizen of El Salvador, and despite court orders to get him back, says returning him is up to President Nayib Bukele. Asked if he will,
the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
If Bukele changes his mind,
we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
But Attorney General Pam Bondi emphasizes Abrego Garcia was in the U.S. illegally. They both spoke in the Oval Office as Bukele met with President Trump. The two men have become close partners in the administration's mass deportation efforts, with Bukele putting hundreds of immigrants into a gang prison.
You are helping us out, and we appreciate it.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
So there you go. Okay. America is weaker than Europe foods, well, combined, I guess, okay? Like if I were to, well, not militarily, okay? America still has a superior military, but probably, you know, economically, all the European countries combined is probably more powerful than the US, okay? If we were to consider Europe to be one country, one unified country with a single trading bloc, then sure. Okay, minus UK, I guess now. I don't know. That's just my assumption. We're going to double check, you know, if we want to. All right. If we want to. Okay, but, you know, that's just my guess. In a court filing Monday evening, Joseph Mazzara, the acting general counsel for the Department of Homeland Security, said it does not have authority to forcibly extract Abrigo Garcia from El Salvador because he is in the domestic custody of a foreign sovereign nation. They didn't even try, because I bet if Trump, I bet Trump could just simply ask him to return him, and that's it. Okay? It's as simple as that. Mazzara also argued that Abrigo, wow, AP News, you guys are slipping. I see a little typo here. Abrigo Garcia is no longer eligible for withholding of removal because the U.S. designated MS-13 as a foreign terror organization. Abrigo, twice now, Abrigo Garcia's attorneys say the government has provided no evidence that he was affiliated with MS-13 or any other gang. True. The refusal of both countries to allow the return of Abrigo Garcia, who had an immigration court order preventing his deportation over fears of gang persecution, is intensifying the battle over the Maryland resident's future. It has also played out in contentious court filings with repeated refusals from the government to tell a judge what it plans to do, if anything, to repatriate it. Okay. The judge handling the case, Paula Zini, is now considering whether to grant a request from the man's legal team to compel the government to explain why it should not be held in contempt. I feel bad for Zini, okay? Because Zini, because Zini has done nothing but good, in this case. And this person is probably receiving death threats from MAGA over very simple requests and very simple demands, okay? Repatriate. Sorry, English is not my first language. How Bukele is helping with Trump's immigration crackdown. Since March, El Salvador has accepted from the U.S. more than 200 Venezuelan immigrants, whom Trump administration officials have accused of gang activity and violent crimes, and placed them inside the country's maximum security gang prison just outside the capital, San Salvador. That prison is part of Bukele's broader effort to crack down on the country's powerful street gangs, which has put 84,000 people behind bars and made Bukele extremely popular at home. Okay? And here we have the least dystopian Trump administration picture, okay? Trump Coon, all right? Trump... Sorry, that was a... Let's blot that out, okay? A Trumple, okay? A Trump propaganda minister, okay? Standing in front of what is actually not the El Salvadorian deportees. These guys are not the people that were on the plane, okay? These people are completely separate prisoners in the same prison. I'm not joking, okay? So this is Kristi Noem, U.S. Homeland Security Secretary. Yeah. Oh, hey! I want to say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president. One hell of a president, Trump said. Sorry. I want to say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president, Trump said as he greeted Bukele, who is wearing a black mock turtleneck sans tie. I don't even know why his appearance was described here. Bukele struck a deal in which the U.S. will pay about $6 million for El Salvador to imprison the Venezuelan immigrants for a year. They're probably going to remain there indefinitely, okay? Let's be honest. So $6 million, we're not even getting money from this, okay? We're paying them. We're paying them so then they can have Americans as slaves. We're not even... This is the worst deal. The worst deal of all deals. Maybe throughout history. Simple. Why don't you wear a suit? True. True. Okay. But Democrats have raised alarm about the treatment of Abrigo Garcia and other migrants who may be out of the deal. Sorry, who may be wrongfully detained in El Salvador. Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland pushed... God, that sounds like a movie actor's name. Pushed for a meeting with Bukele while he was in Washington to discuss Abrigo Garcia's potential return. And New Hampshire Senator Jian Shaheen. Fuck, I got my spit all over the place. The DOP Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee urged the administration, art of the detainee, administration to release Abrigo Garcia and others with no credible criminal record. Now, just a reminder, 75% of these people have no criminal record. Art of the deal, disregarding art of the dealing with dictators. Disregarding the rule of law, ignoring unanimous rulings by the Supreme Court, and subjecting individuals to detention and deportation without due process makes us less safe as a country, Shaheen said. True. Though other judges had ruled against the Trump administration, this month the Supreme Court cleared a way for Trump to use the Alien Enemies Act, an 18th century wartime law, to deport the immigrants. The justices did insist that the immigrants get a court hearing before being removed from the U.S. Over the weekend, 10 more people who the administration claims are members of the MS-13 and Trente Aragua arrived gangs. It's just like how leftists say Trente Aragua. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Sunday. Trump wants to expand his deportation plans. The president has said openly that he would also favor El Salvador taking custody of American citizens who have committed violent crimes, a view he repeated Monday. So again, he's open to getting more American citizens. Guys, sorry, not American citizens. Oh shit, wait. The president who has openly said he would also favor El Salvador taking custody of American citizens. This is not green card holders. This is not visa holders. American citizens. I told you guys. I said this again and again. Everybody else is saying again and again. The first step is visa holders and green card holders. The next step is you. Okay? The next step is you. All right? The next step is you and you and you and you and you. All the people who lives in America. All right? Who live in our glorious dictatorship. Okay? So, I might get disappeared tomorrow. Who knows? All right? I think Trump is going to go after people who has been bad-mouthing him. Okay, who knows? If you can post on Twitter and not be allowed entry into the country, or you can post on Twitter and you can be deported back to your nation, anything goes at this point. You make a 7-view video, you get deported. Okay? Who the fuck knows at this point? We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it because we can do things with the president for less money and have great security, Trump said during a meeting. And we have a huge prison population. So the solution, apparently, according to Trump, to solve our huge prison population, our failing prison system, our failing private prison system with all the black people inside, so many black people, is to send everybody from the hood, to El Salvador, This is how he's going to get rid of black people, You've heard this. You've heard this from me, folks, This is not me being racist, It's just me acknowledging the reality of the situation, Before the press entered the Oval Office, Trump said in the video posted on social media by Bukele that he wanted to send homegrowns to be incarcerated in El Salvador and added, "You've got to build 5 more places," suggesting Bukele doesn't have enough prison capacity for all the U.S. citizens that Trump would like to send there. The High Court weighs in an administration response. The Supreme Court has called, obviously we know. Look at these people thinking that free speech still matters. The Trump indicated over the weekend that he would return Abrigo Garcia to the U.S. if the High Court's justices said to bring him back, saying, "I have great respect for the Supreme Court." But the tone from top administration officials were sharply different Monday. "He's a citizen of El Salvador," said Stephen Miller, a White House deputy chief of staff. So it's very arrogant. even for American media, to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens. By the way, if anybody wants to have a fast pass to become an El Salvadorian citizen, just get arrested. Just get arrested without due process and just get sent down to El Salvador and you just instantly become a citizen of another country, which is just fucking hilarious, okay? Bondi asserted that 2 immigration court judges who are under Justice Department purview found that Abrigo Garcia was a member of MS-13. Actually, we can search this up. Ignore Wuthering Waves, okay? We don't talk about Wuthering Waves in this town, okay? Is Abrigo Garcia El Salvador citizen? No, he is a citizen of El Salvador, technically. Yeah. He is a citizen, technically true. But I think you're gonna become an El Salvador citizen anyway, okay? Regardless of whether or not you grew up there, okay? While Bukele's crackdown gains has popular support, the country has lived under a state of emergency that suspends some basic rights for 3 years. He built the massive prison located just outside San Salvador in the town of Tecoluca to hold those accused of gang affiliation under his crackdown. Accused, okay? Emphasis on accused, not proven beyond the shadow of a doubt. Part of his offer to receive the Venezuelans, there was that the U.S. also send back home some Salvadorian gang leaders. Jesus. But yeah, there you go. All right. And the funniest part, Trump has also shown some irritation with Bukele in the past, accusing El Salvador of lowering its crime rate by sending people to the U.S. Now, isn't that funny? Okay. Trump is willing to bend over backwards, make amends with dictators in order to improve his relations with them, but he's willing to bend over backwards, lick his own balls in order to devolve his relations with European leaders who are our allies. Definitely not El Salvadorian dictators or any, despots, despotic countries' leaders. Okay, so he's putting in some extra effort to create an alliance of dictators like Putin and Bukele, right? He's creating an alliance, the Axis, the new Axis. Okay, he's abandoning the old alliance. Okay, the allies. Okay, he's abandoning the allies for the Axis. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. Okay, so yeah.